This makes an avoidant partner finally initiate and take the lead. Most people believe that if you just love an avoidant person enough, they will eventually step up and meet you halfway. But the truth is, the more you chase, the more they retreat into themselves without even realizing why they're doing it. Avoidants are not driven by pressure, expectations, or emotional intensity the way most people are. They are driven by something much quieter, much deeper, and often completely misunderstood by their partners. What finally makes an avoidant initiate and take the lead is not more effort from you, but less emotional pursuit. It is not about doing more, saying more, or proving your love harder. It is about creating a psychological space where they no longer feel like they are being emotionally cornered. You see, an avoidance nervous system is extremely sensitive to anything that feels like dependency. The moment they sense that someone is relying on them for emotional stability, they begin to pull away. Not because they don't care, but because closeness starts to feel like pressure instead of safety. And this is where most people get it wrong. They respond to distance with more closeness, more texts, more questions, and more emotional intensity. But to an avoidant, that feels like being slowly suffocated rather than loved. So what actually works? What makes them turn around, reach out, and finally take initiative without being asked? It starts with emotional self-containment. When you stop outsourcing your emotional needs onto them and start holding your own center, everything begins to shift. You are no longer chasing reassurance, no longer seeking validation, and no longer trying to control the outcome. This creates something incredibly powerful in their mind. It removes the invisible pressure they were reacting to all along. Now, instead of feeling responsible for your emotions, they start to feel curious about your independence. Instead of needing space from you, they begin to feel drawn toward you. Because here's the paradox. Avoidants crave connection just as deeply as anyone else, but only when it feels safe and non-demanding. When you become emotionally grounded and stop reacting to their distance, they lose the script they are used to. They expect you to chase, to question, to close the gap. But when you don't, something inside them gets activated. It's not manipulation. It's not a game. It's a shift in emotional energy that they can feel but may not fully understand. They begin to notice your absence, not just physically, but emotionally. And that absence feels different this time. It doesn't feel like rejection. It feels like you have chosen yourself. And that is what makes them step forward. Another key factor is consistency without pressure. You don't disappear completely, and you don't become cold or distant. You remain present, but you remove the urgency and emotional demand from your presence. This signals something very important to an avoidant. It tells them that connection with you is safe, steady, and not overwhelming. Over time, this lowers their defense without them even noticing it consciously. Their walls don't come down because you force them. They come down because they no longer feel the need to keep them up. And this is when initiation starts to happen naturally. They text first. They call. They make plans. They begin to invest without being pushed. Not because you convince them, but because the dynamic has changed at its core. There's also something else happening beneath the surface. When you stop chasing, you restore your own sense of value. And value is something avoidants are highly sensitive to, even if they don't express it openly. They are drawn to people who feel whole within themselves. When you show that you are okay with or without them, it removes the fear of being consumed by the relationship. Now, being with you feels like a choice, not an obligation. And choice is what makes them feel free enough to move closer. Another powerful shift is emotional predictability. Avoidants are often used to chaotic or overly emotional environments, especially from past experiences. So when they encounter someone who is calm, steady, and emotionally regulated, it creates a sense of safety they are not used to. They begin to trust that being close to you will not cost them their independence. They begin to trust that they won't be overwhelmed or controlled. And trust is what allows them to take the lead without fear. But here's the part most people struggle with. This process requires patience and emotional discipline. You cannot fake detachment while secretly waiting for them to come back. They can feel that energy even if nothing is being said. This has to be real. You have to genuinely shift your focus back onto your own life, your own growth, and your own emotional stability. Because in the end, the goal is not just to make them initiate. The goal is to create a dynamic where both people feel free, respected, and emotionally safe. And ironically, when you stop making them the center of your emotional world, that's when they finally start moving towards you. They initiate not because they were forced to, but because they finally feel safe enough to want to.